In my mind, I would become a politician. I would probably study law, something like that. While I'm educated, it did not protect me from the reality of what the seeds that were planted. So when I was very promiscuous, at 16 years old, I did my first abortion.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining again for this episode of Kept for Keeps podcast with Kerriann, right? Listen, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, sharing the video, liking, commenting, messaging me, discussing it. I appreciate every single one of you so much. And just continue to share, with your friends, share the testimonies, and share your questions, share your concerns, share your comments. I'm ready for it. So, I am very excited today because I'll be interviewing, talking to, getting the testimony from the Fearless. Ever ready to speak and minister and to write and to encourage and to coach. I'm speaking with none other than Crystal Daye. Crystal.
Listen, in the young people would say, you beat me up, right? Or, older people would say, she's swelling my head. No. So that's, I don't know, both of them is happening right now. But, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've been, watching a few episodes and, wonder if I get for dance this time or, probably I forgot bust and sing or, I don't know, but I'm here, Kerry, at your service.
Thank you for coming. Like Crystal can dance. I mean, I can dance. You notice I attract dancers, okay? Because I'm a dancer. And so, all right. But Crystal is the CEO of Daylight Publishing, and she really coaches persons who wants to write. Write that book, get that book done. Coach you how to market your book, how to market your business, because your book is a business, is your brand, and you are your brand. So she does that well. So Crystal, I just want to find out though. I mean, the first time I saw you, sometimes you can see speakers and them look nervous and them sound nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm just so encouraged. I'm so. I want to be like Crystal. And I remember too, this long before I met you, Pastor Trudy was saying, I must introduce you to Crystal Daye. Because Crystal is somebody who go out and start our ministry and she just start and she's bold. So tell me, Crystal, are you fearless?
So first, let's bring up Auntie Trudy, right? She's a big fan. Yeah. But again, I'm proud of the work that you're doing in this podcast. It's never an easy thing to just step out and walk in the unknown. No, the idea that I'm fearless is definitely false. The lie detector said that is not true, right? Because the truth is, I am not fearless. I feel fear probably every day, and I feel fear in different areas of my life. What I think is that, though, as a believer, I can say that my fear of displeasing God is greater than the fear of pleasing man. And it took a few years for me to get to that point. And even the fear of how I would look. Because sometimes you're not even thinking about what others may say, but how you in your own self will feel or, can I do this? So I definitely don't subscribe to fearlessness. I do believe that you can feel the fear and do it anyway, as they mentioned. But I do believe that even if fear is greater, the word of God says that greater love casted out all fear. And one of the things that I've recognized is not confidence don't make you be fearless. Faith don't make you be fearless. What has helped me is walking in God's perfect love. That even if I fail, the word of God tells me that the steps of a good man or a woman are ordered by the Lord. Listen, I believe that even our missteps are ordered by Him. So for me, I am like, okay, even when I fail, fear, insecure, all of these things, how can I give God glory? It's not always easy, but I try to remember that.
Good. You know, you really brought up a good point that, you know, confidence don't make you fearless. It does not, absolutely not. But tell me, Crystal, how did you start, you know, Daylight Publishing?
So, you know, the interesting thing with about before Daylight was Crystal that grew up in the inner city. I was born in Maxfield, grew up in jungle. I tell people as long as I can remember, my father used to tell me that I'm Crystal Daye. I am born to light up this world. And he would always, play on my name and told me that, I was called to do great things. But, going through high school and never realizing how poor you are until, you realize, you are not exposed to certain things. I remember at one point, going to school and all my friends were wearing John Sport and my mommy bought me a Joy Sport bag. And, it was my best friend at the time that bought a bag like, no, you're not wearing that. So, throughout, the years, no matter how confident you would have felt, there were situations that will just push you down and tell you that you are not enough. So fast forward, I tell people while I was very good at doing bookwork, right? I graduated from Alpha as the top girl of the school in 2003, I believe, when I graduated. But while I was book smart and I always knew that I would have done great things, in my mind I would become a politician, I would probably study law, something like that. What that did not, while I'm educated, it did not protect me from the reality of what the seeds that were planted. So one, I was very promiscuous. At 16 years old, I did my first abortion. I just had everything that was not of God, that was where I was walking into. But the truth is, you know that God exists. You know that you pray and God answers. You know that, especially growing up in jungle and when the gunshots start fire, you have to sleep on the ground. You know that you need a protector. But the idea of surrendering my heart to Jesus Christ was just not, a thing. Until I remember, a series of events happened and I eventually gave my life to the Lord. And just a little secret, like, I did have two boyfriends and two of them left me, and literally, I did heartbroken, and I went to church and the pastor was saying, the love of God, and I was like, I need that love of God because Jesus now left me. Literally, that's what happened, right? And if you want to know more, you can read my book, Living a Royal Reality, because I went in details. But why I bring this up, because when I dedicated my life to the Lord, I didn't walk into true Christianity. I was in and out, I was in church, but I was also, a lot of my mind was outside the world. So I got pregnant in church. I'm telling my life festive, you see? And I'm gonna come back how Daylight, because I want to show you how nothing with God is wasted. Nothing. Because just going through all of that and, after my daughter was born, a few years after, just finding myself back in this cycle of, this is just not what I want. And the funny thing is, I would have, at 24, accomplished what the world would have said would have been success. I bought my first home. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. I was the first person to buy a car. I was the first person to travel overseas. So a lot of what people would say is generational curse breaker, right? But except I was not walking in who God has called me to be. So I was pursuing all the things of the world because that's what I was taught. That was what I knew. And it just came to a point, I remember just having all of these things. I was engaged to get married to my high school sweetheart he went to England and he came back down for me. And somewhere in that, I started to ask the Lord, is this the relationship that you want from me? I don't know when since I started praying about relationship to God, But in all of that, I remember just seeing, it was a meme on Facebook, I believe, that says, you were born to pay more than bills, you were born. And that just kind of started this journey of purpose for me. And it was in this journey, I started to host events for teen girls and, people started to invite me to speak. I'm not quite sure why at that time, and I remember being invited to a church to preach and I'm like calling the pastor, you sure? Like, I don't know if God will say something like that because God knows my past. You guys don't know, but God knows, And I started this journey of just loving Jesus. I started this journey of saying no to the things that I like, the party, love the dance, right? I've said no to the promiscuity, I've said no to sex before marriage. And why I share this part of the story, because a lot of persons like to start with purpose, the doing and the doing. I had to become. I had to become before I could walk into who God had. I had to see myself as a Jesus girl, even though my past say that I'm a ghetto girl, I had to walk a lot in that. So in doing all of those things that, as I fell in love with Jesus more, I just found that God started to give me more things to do and more gifts started to rise up, and you just look in the mirror, you don't even recognize who you are. And it was in, I think I started blogging, and I'm very transparent, as you would know. I'm very transparent, so I started to blog and, say I was the other woman and just having conversations church people just were uncomfortable with. And, the Lord led me to host this major women's conference. And this was all, I'm working my 9-to-5 job. I'm a single mother. I am very active in my community, so I'm doing all of these things and church and all of these purpose things. And eventually the Lord told me that I'm going to leave my 9-to-5 job and pursue ministry and business. Now, love Jesus.
Yeah.
Love him now. But in that moment, I figured Jesus lost his mind. Because God, I can do all the purpose things. I can write the books, while I'm in my 9-to-5.
You're still doing it.
And do my I'm confused. And, a series of events happened, and I remember he had given, for years I knew that my business would have named Daylight, right? My brothers and I don't know, it just came in my spirit from about 18, 19, but we always thought it would have been a restaurant, which is very interesting, right? Because
Footprints
because we love our belly, my brothers and I, we can cook very well, so we figured restaurant. So when the idea of a business came about, Daylight eventually got the name. But how the final thing I would say, the confirmation came from a non-Christian actually. Nobody knew that I was planning to leave my job or, start a business. And one of my mom friends, the Lord gave her a dream to go to Crystal and say, Daylight, it's saving time. Now, she had no clue. She didn't even know what that meant. She literally said, Nadine, call my mommy, Nadine, I had a dream and God said to tell Crystal, Daylight, it's saving time. And eventually my mom knew what that meant. And when she called me, I knew what that meant, because Daylight, it's saving time. The Lord said that he has called me to preserve godly literature. Yeah. He has called me to save souls. He has called me to help people to save money and build wealth. And it was it's still a scary vision, but that's my very long-winded story of how Daylight was born.
Whoa. So sometimes when you feel like a crippling fear, what do you do to come out of it?
So here's the thing. With fear, most of the times I consider, fear shows up in different areas of our life. Fear can show up as a procrastinator. For me, what you found that fear showed up as insecurity for me. So this constant quest of, am I good enough? Will I be good enough? Am I doing the right things? So this is why I wrote the book, Dear Insecurity, because that's how fear showed up for me. And as I mentioned, the fear for me, a lot of the insecurity came from me understanding who God is and then who I am in God. Because a lot of us try to walk in our identity, but we can't accept our identity if we don't accept who the identity is from. And I had to fall in love with who God is and believe his promises. So there's moments when God is calling me to do big things. Again, one, I go back to his perfect love will never allow me to be put to shame. Secondly, there are times when I feel like I've had shameful moments, and I've learned that shame doesn't kill me. Another thing that I've learned about just this fear thing is that this life is not about me. This life is bigger than us. And when I keep my eyes on the fact that I'm called to serve people, then whatever insecurities that I have is in comparison to eternity, it's nothing. So there are days that I cry. There are days that I curse. There are days that I lay down and watch Netflix for 48 hours and watch Flash or watch Legend, and I just don't want to do this purpose thing. And then on the the third day, I rise.
And take off the grave clothes.
And take off, and like, okay, Crystal, you and God got to do this. And I think that's a very practical way. God is not, like, he understands our fears. There is nobody in the Bible that has been called that has not experienced some level of insecurity, fear, whatever you call it. But what he continuously says is that I am with you, but you can't believe that he's with you if you don't believe him, himself, his word, himself.
You know, you really touch on a very important point when you say, boy, sometimes you just lay down and watch Netflix. Freeze mode, I call it. Because sometimes just doing purpose and being purpose is tiring. And sometimes you start to think, am I going to mess this up? God, I mean, you have shared that, your biggest thing is to not displease God. So for me, sometimes it's like, I don't want to mess this up by doing too much. So let me stop. And then sometimes you stop long. And, so for me is scrolling Instagram, is watching different YouTube, just sit down and listen to music. And I used to call it rest, but for me, it was fear. Yeah. Because I did not want to mess up. I did not want to do the right thing. Oh my God, people are going to look for me. Somebody going to have something to say. Am I okay? Am I together? And, so a lot of time waste. Yeah. But what you shared is that you always go back to God. Because he's a strength, he's a source. So even when you break off and you rest, you just go back. So tell me about your, I heard, I soon get my ticket. I soon get my ticket.
Okay, ma'am.
So you have 2 back-to-back events coming up.
Yes. So, even before we get to the event, I want to mention, because some persons listening, and, I've seen it even with you, and I know that as you step out in faith, God will continue to honor your obedience. But 3 things, and my brain worked very practically because of my teaching gift. So 3 things I want to share with people when it comes on to just this fearless conversation, right? 1 is to go back to the why. Because the truth is, every time I go back to why am I doing this, it is to please God. Secondly, I do believe that I am called, I'm gifted to do this work. My one book that I wrote is Empowered for Such a Time, like right now in this moment. And I think about the people that I'm robbing by not walking in obedience. You understand? And some people get caught up in numbers. I don't get caught up in numbers. And there are times when, but I don't. Here's why. Because the truth is, my true measurement of impact is eternity. Eternity. You understand? So that is 1. Go back to the why, dig deep, and if you don't have that strong why, then you won't be motivated enough to keep pushing. The second thing is that you have to see God as a father. If you don't see him as a father, then you're going to have the idea that if I don't do things right, then I won't be. You understand? So you're going to get hit. And understand that your small step of obedience, that's all he needs, because he knows that what he has placed in you already. He's not calling you for perfection. He's not calling you. He's just saying, hey, my daughter, I believe in you. I got you. You understand? And there's this song that I always play when I'm going through a hard moment, is 1 set of footprints in the sand, and it is him that is carrying you. And it's a whole song, but it's my ministry song. Like, when I see 1 set of footprints in the sand. So you definitely have to see God as a father. And the last thing I would say is to allow yourself to dream bigger than your current reality. Because I heard you say it a while ago. You said, suppose I'm a little bit too much. Yeah. I am too much. I'm sorry. Like I'm the Crystal Daye. I am too much. It is. Here's why. Because the word of God says that I'm salt.
Yes.
It says that I'm light.
Yes.
Like, if you are in a dark room and you just turn on the phone light, it makes a difference, right? If you put salt anywhere, and sometimes you can overdo the salt in a gear pressure. You understand what I say? So, and them need extra water.
Yeah.
So, the truth is, you have to walk in that and own that you are enough as who you are. You understand? There's no too much.
No.
There's too much for other people, but you cannot be too much. And I just want to, encourage you and encourage your listeners about that, because so many people are walking in timidity versus walking in the true love of God. Now, the event that Kerry is referring to is the Kingdom Author Success Book Fair and Awards Conference. And it's funny that you're having this conversation with me, because this was a vision I had in 2018 when I won my first award in Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm like, I would want to take this to the Caribbean. But COVID happened, everything happened. And last year, I preached a sermon called Fortified by Faith. And when I left, when I was driving home, I hear the Holy Spirit say, are you going to activate what you just preached? Whoa. And if you could do any faith thing right now, what would that be? Mm-hmm. And it would have been to host that event. Yeah. And I took literally 8 weeks to plan this major 2-day event. And, God really, really showed up. So this year is the second staging. And I thought in my head, because I did it last year successfully, I'm up. But then I realized that I needed a different level of faith for this one.
Yes.
Because the warfare, I feel like I had to trust God more this year than I had to last year. Especially because I made this bold move, God came through for me last year, and it felt like God wasn't going to come through. And I started to feel fear. I remember, Kerry, I started to say, I literally heard the enemy saying, God is going to put you to shame. You're going to be put to shame. And I'm like, in a moment, you feel crippled, and I'm like, oh, but shame not kill me. It's okay. No. So, it is going to be held on Saturday, July 1st, and I do encourage persons to come out. While it is a book fair, it is also a celebration of kingdom authors, kingdom entrepreneurs. It is a new beginning of understanding that it is not, being a Christian is not unholy. Being a Christian is not cool. Being a Christian is the coolest thing.
It is.
And I can tell you, because I was in the world and I was the girl in the world. So I would say that I want as much, it's not just for believers, because some of you are watching that you are people of faith. You might not have given your life to Jesus Christ yet, but you're a person of faith. Come out and, get to meet and greet the authors. We have a kiddies booth, we have, poetry slam, we have a gospel pull-up competition, so, you pull up. So we have some new ministers that are coming, and we're gonna, pay some money for them to pull up and stuff like that. So we're just trying to have a great fun day on July 1st. And then, as she mentioned, on June 30th is the Reach Millions Author Live. Now, this one is dedicated to writers, aspiring authors, and published authors. Persons who want to learn how to get their message globally. Because I have a global ministry. That is a given. I work with persons more than 12 countries. I have a podcast with over 34 countries persons are listening from. So I want to teach authors how to use the message, because it's not so much about the book, the book is a tool. Yeah. But I want to teach you how to get the message out globally, and of course how to make some money from it, because I
eat.
I have to eat a food.
By the sweat of a brow, that's how we eat bread. Wow. So, Crystal, this was a really enriching discussion.
I'm talk about the whole life.
No. Which is why we wanted you here, which is why God placed you to be here. I shared with you that a long time I want to ask you to come up, I'm afraid. Because Crystal is the Crystal Daye, that's what we call her. And she's like, no. But I was like, oh my God, Crystal I go come by my little podcast, me not think, I did afraid. And then I just brave up, and I'm still asked timidly. And she's like, it's me.
Like, only persons I want to be afraid of me is my 12-year-old, right? My daughter, my 2 nieces, they're 12. I feel like they need to be afraid of me. Everybody else, I'm very, very, like, chill with. But, you know, they're my teenagers, so you forget somebody. You know, we rough them up, you know.
Yes.
But everybody else, believe me, I am very, very chilled.
Good. It's true. It's true. It's true. You see it, and it's true.
Yeah.
So, you know, just thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. I mean, each time I leave your presence, I leave encouraged and I just say, yeah. I mean, Crystal shared at a conference at church. I'm like, I see so much of me in Crystal. Like, I couldn't have been friends with Crystal them time. You know what I mean?
My friend, them don't listen to me. Friends, most of y'all that get free coaching, free inspiration, y'all don't listen to me. So I pour into Kerriann, moving on. Continue. Friends that are watching, no, self.
So yeah, man, thank you so much for coming. And I will be at the July 1st event next year. I'm going to be
at Reach Millions.
At Reach Millions. Because next year, the book are going to be
hello, you see, when
up and
put
running
it on camera, you can't take it back. But that's why somebody just screenshot. You understand? Because we're putting this up next year. But continue.
Next year for true. So, you know, thank you so much for coming to share. I mean, thank you, Footprints, for having us. You know, we soon go eat our food and chill.
Get some shake.
And get some shake from Troppy Shake. You know, check out the next episode. We'll be talking to the man behind Troppy Shakes. You know, so this is really rich. This is really encouraging. And everybody support the event. Go, you know, follow Crystal on her on her socials.
Crystal Daye, as bright as day. Yeah, I do that a lot. I play with my name.
So, you know, follow her, you know, sign up, I mean, next year or this year, whatever. But, you know, thank you so much again for tuning into this episode of the Kept for Keeps podcast with Kerriann Wright. Blessings. Remember to subscribe, share, like, comment, you know. Blessings, everybody.
All right, God bless you.
Bye.